So today is Assumption Sunday, and this is a beautiful Marian shrine in Mater Dei Cathedral Church, a Catholic church in Nigeria. So after our rosary procession, I decided to take a video of the Marian shrine. So for those of you who don't know, a Marian shrine is a place dedicated to our Mother Mary, the Mother of Jesus. Hello and welcome to C.A.L.M Center. So today we'll be talking about how to hear the voice of God. It's been an amazing journey on my walk with God, trying to know the mind of God, trying to do the right thing by God actually. And I've made several mistakes. Even when I thought I had already learned what God was trying to teach me, I see myself repeating the same kinds of mistakes. And that was because I had not learned what God was trying to teach me at that time. Now, there was a time in my life a couple of months ago that I was in a very deep state, a state of hopelessness really, a state of confusion, and I was basically empty. And I knew that something was lacking. I knew that I had to seek God. I knew that I had to, let go of every other thing and just commune with Him and really know what His desire is for me. And I realized through my discovery, when I began to seek God, that I haven't actually involved God in my life the way I thought I was involving God, the way I thought, involving God meant. Now, what I would do was, I was actually basically just informing God of my life's choices, of my life's decisions. If I wanted to go to the spa, if I wanted to travel, okay, God, I'll be traveling tomorrow, okay? And I'm praying that it's going to be a successful journey. That was just it. My relationship with God was just a relationship that I felt that I just had to inform Him, but I didn't need to get approval from Him. So I came across this book in my seeking God called How to Hear from God by Joyce Meyer, and a lot of things that I'll be talking about now was gotten from this particular book, How to Hear from God. It was a book that drastically changed my life. I realized that I've been seeking God wrongly, and it also opened up to me to realize that there are many ways that God speaks to us, and many of us Christians think that it is only when we hear, one dramatic entrance, or God coming to our dreams and being so dramatic about it, or we hear a voice from heaven saying, my daughter, or my son, my son. I realized that God speaks to us even in the littlest ways, even in ways that are not dramatic, and that gave me peace of mind. I was no more approaching God waiting for one dramatic experience. I was approaching God as though He was just right there with me, as though He was just a physical being and not some spiritual being. I know that God is a spiritual being, of course, but He created us in this body. And so we can also hear from Him without having to experience one dramatic, spiritual encounter. So Joyce Meyer broke down a lot of things in this book, and I really, really loved it. And I'm recommending that every Christian should go look for this book, How to Hear from God by Joyce Meyer. Now, one of the first things that this book talked about was, even before we learn how to hear from God, we need to first of all create an atmosphere that is welcoming of God, an atmosphere that tells God, okay, God, I'm going to come to you to listen to you. I'm going to come to you because I honor you. I'm going to come to you because I value your opinions and I value your decisions. And I value what you think about my life. And my own thoughts and my own ideas are not the ultimate, but yours are. Because most times when you are self-absorbed, when you think that you know the answers to everything, or that you have it all figured out, we tend not to hear when God is speaking to us. When we come to God knowing that God's will or God's opinion is the ultimate and not ours, then we can hear Him. Because the truth is that God is always speaking. So either because of pride, either because we are self-absorbed, we don't get to hear what God is saying. But God is always speaking every moment of the time. So we need to come to God in total surrender to his own will, total surrender to what he has to tell us. Because after I read this book, I went down memory lane, and I discovered that there were actually times that God spoke to me. But because I was so stubborn, I told myself, no, this idea makes more sense. I need to go with this idea. Because most times God's opinion may not make sense to us at the time. But after we have gone along to, feed our flesh or feed our selfish desires, we realize in the long run that opinion or that decision of ours wasn't actually the right thing. So we need to come to God in total surrender and commitment to do his will. And when I learned this, I no more live my life just thinking that I'm living my life for myself. I'm not living my life knowing that there's a higher authority and there's a higher, being that I have to submit to, and that whatever I decide to do should not revolve around me, but revolve around my Creator, God. So, in what ways actually does God speak to us? Aside from dreams, aside from, visions, aside from all of these dramatic experiences that many of us may have or may share, the truth is, God speaks to us even in the littlest ways. In the littlest ways. And one of these ways is that God speaks to us through our natural abilities. Many times we tend to say that we don't know what to do with our lives, we don't know our purpose, we don't know what God has called us to do. But when we look at those things that are natural to us, those skills, those talents, that God-given, natural abilities that we have, those are the things that God has placed in our heart, placed in our lives, to actually answer the call of purpose. And Joyce Meyer in this book said, if you're confused about what you intend to do in life, just go ahead and try out those things that you're really passionate about or you're really skilled at, and see how God is going to bless you through that. So God speaks to us through our natural abilities as well. Okay? And God also speaks out of our own mouths. There have been many times that I didn't know what to do. Ideas will just come out of my, I'll have ideas, and then I'll start analyzing them. Maybe I'll go meet my sister and I'll start talking to her about these thoughts of mine. And then she gives me her own opinions. And as we are talking about it and analyzing, what we want to do or what I intend to do, new ideas just come up. And I'll be like, where was this idea all along? So sometimes God speaks to us out of our own mouths, okay? And sometimes it can even come from the person you're having that communication with or that conversation with, okay? God speaks to us through our own mouths as well, while we are sharing those ideas with people, okay? Another way God speaks to us is through internal peace. This was the game changer for me. I realized that there were so many decisions that I took in the past that I didn't have peace with, but I just went ahead and did it because I felt like, well, it seems like the right thing to do. Everybody is doing it. We know that recently what is basically in vogue now is tech. Everybody is into tech. This is the 21st century. AI is here. People are now trying to pivot into tech, pivot into AI, pivot into, what is in vogue really. But the truth is that not everyone will be into tech. Not everyone will be good at, doing tech. So we need to find out what we are really at peace with. We shouldn't just pivot into, the next big thing or what is in vogue because we think that it seems right to do it or it will pay us more money. So I have learned that when anxiety arises in me to handle something, I'm going to have to rest in it. I'm the type of person that is very quick to take action. Once I have an idea, boom, I'm trying to execute that idea. Like recently, as I'm making this recording, I have a new idea that dropped in my heart since yesterday. Normal me would have just taken a decision already. I would have, by today, I would have been posting about it, sharing the idea, putting it into practice. But I have learned that I need to be at peace first. I need to sit with that idea and, ask God what He really thinks about this decision of mine before I take action. And this has actually given me, that complete surrender and trust in God's abilities. Because sometimes I'm even afraid of, if I don't act now, something is going to spoil. But if God has given me this dream or this desire, then it's going to definitely be successful when I decide to implement it. So having peace in whatever thing you're going to do is a way to also confirm that indeed this is God speaking to me. If you don't have peace in something, in making that decision, sit with the idea. Time is a revealer. Time confirms the will of God. Time confirms it all. If you're not sure, then sit with it. I'm talking about decisions that are not life-threatening. I'm not talking about things like, let me say you're supposed to undergo either a surgery, because you're sick and you have to undergo a surgery. Those are decisions that I need to, probably give an answer immediately to. But when it comes to decisions that are really important, that are life-changing, life-transforming, like marriage, like relocation, there are very important decisions that you need to sit with. That thing is not going to run away. You need to sit with your thoughts and not just run off to try to implement or execute them without being sure that God is approving of that decision. So peace is one important factor when we want to really know what God is telling us to do at every point. Peace is an important factor. And this has actually made me, decide that, okay, you don't need to run off to do anything. As long as God is telling you to do something, it has to come with peace. It has to come with, you actually being comfortable in that thing, so that you can be sure that God is giving you a go-ahead order on that particular thing. So God speaks to us through peace. God speaks to us through wisdom and common sense. Hallelujah. Now, when I came across this particular point in Joyce Meyer's book, it was a game changer. Joyce Meyer said that she prefers working with people who work with their common sense than people who spiritualize everything. In Christendom, if you don't, pray a certain way, if you don't prophesy, if you don't dream dreams, you're not seen as someone who is really serious. People try to spiritualize every single thing. But God gave us common sense for a reason. God gave us common sense because He wants us to use it. I was thinking about something one particular time, and I realized that the miracles that happened back then no longer happen now. It doesn't mean that God does not have the ability to do certain things, but life has evolved. God gave us common sense too. Okay, someone once mentioned to me, what mic was Jesus Christ using when He spoke to 5,000 people? It was also a miracle that He was able to speak to 5,000 people without a microphone. But today in the 21st century, we now use microphones. Do you understand? So there are many things that we have doctors. Science has, evolved. How did science evolve to this point? Common sense, wisdom, knowledge, the ability to understand. So these are also the ways that God speaks to us when we have our own common sense. It's not everything that you need to spiritualize before you know what to do. Use your common sense as well. So God speaks to us through common sense. Now, I would like to stop here for now, but that book is actually very, very deep, and I will encourage every Christian who really wants to grow in their walk with God to read How to Hear from God from Joyce Meyer. And most likely in my next video, I'll be talking more on what I learned from the book as it leads me. And I hope these few points of mine have really blessed you. If you have any opinions on what you think, you disagree with or what you agree with, you're welcome to drop it in the comment section. So in conclusion, God wants to have a close relationship with us. He wants us to invite Him in our daily activities, even in the littlest of decision making. He wants to be involved completely 100% in our decision making. So I'll urge us to invite Him, not just after we have decided to do that thing, but even before we even start on every journey. Ask for His approval all the time, and make sure you also have peace before you embark on that journey. God bless you.